Okay, yesterday we've seen on how it works, right? So there's it's a life cycle method where looking manage the assets to find the vulnerabilities, and then so we could able to scan them to find out or identify the vulnerabilities. Let me share my screen. So now rather than blindly talking, so we'll just look at the whiteboard that we used. So the entire screen, yes. So where is this? The one Qualys, yes, the admin course. Okay. So what it is? So it is used to identify the existing vulnerabilities. So now why we have to find the vulnerabilities? You know it. So we have to decrease the security risk. That means so we have to decrease the threat to the organizations. That means we have to decrease the vulnerabilities. In order to decrease it, in order to fix it, we have to identify it. So now these are the tools that is used to identify the existing vulnerabilities across different assets, so that we could able to find these vulnerabilities and prioritize the vulnerabilities based on the severity. So why do we need this specific solution? So to decrease the cybersecurity risk, so that we can able to identify them and fix, so that we can able to decrease the threat, so that would decrease the risk across the organization. So you know what is a vulnerability, threat, and risk. So today, let's talk about, guys. Mute yourself, please. Perfect. Okay, bro, can you please mute yourself? I don't know how to do it. Let me do it. Yes, thank you. Okay. So now for every vulnerability, there are certain characteristics that is given to a vulnerability to prioritize and to provide what impact that it could create. So for every vulnerability that is being identified across different technologies, services, configurations, operating system, the vulnerability can be anything. So what is a vulnerability that you know? So it can be a weakness or a loophole where an attacker will try to take advantage or will try to infect that specific weakness. So here, so for every vulnerabilities to identify what that vulnerability can do and what is it impacting and what is the severity and priority of that specific vulnerability, so it will be given a specific ID for it, and we call that as a CVEID, common vulnerability exposure, followed with the year that vulnerability got discovered, and there'll be a specific ID provided so to each of this vulnerability. And so to identify the priority or severity, so every CVE will have a CVSS score. So right now we are using the version 3 of CVSS score. Previously we used to use version 2, which has only three categories, which is high, medium, and low. So just to ensure that we have more filtering on prioritization, so in CVSS we've got five categories. So you know what this solution can do. What is why the organizations using this solution? It's very simple: to find the existing vulnerabilities and to prioritize the vulnerabilities so that we could able to fix it. Okay. So now the objective of this platform very important for the organizations, because they wanted to find the vulnerabilities. They wanted to see, they wanted to have the visibility on where the attackers might take advantage. So the attackers, where will they take advantage is on the vulnerabilities. So that means your organization should be finding the vulnerabilities in order to fix it, so that they could able to stop any cyber attacks happening across the organization. So now, as you know the logic of why this platform is used, so most of the organizations have this platform. And the tool that we are learning, Qualys VMDR, is one of the widely used vulnerability assessment tools across the world. So we do also have Nessus. Nessus is very much easier comparatively with Qualys. So Nexpose is not that frequently used, but you might also probably see the organizations are using a little of Nexpose too. And we've also got Security Center. So that is also another vulnerability assessment platform. But comparatively with all of these market emerging, so we have Qualys, which is very premium and very much used across most of the top level organizations. So that is the tool that we are learning. So now today, let's
Uh,
understand what.
Sorry, Manoj, what interrupted. What about tenable vulnerability management? It is also one of the good best in market, or else is so one.
Tenable, when I say Nessus, Tenable is the one that provides Nessus services. So Tenable and Nessus are just the same.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay. So today let's understand about what is this VMDR, Qualys VMDR architecture. So you already know what is VMDR. So it manages the vulnerabilities, detect the vulnerabilities by identifying them, and provides any response so that we could able to fix that specific vulnerability across a system. So now that is what this Qualys can able to do. So now how this is this could able to do, the architecture tells you how is it working. So let's dive in a little bit more and understand what is Qualys VMDR architecture. So I'll just write the date here, so that so this is yesterday, which is on 8th of May, which is the demo session. And I'll keep this in a box, so just to ensure that so we can navigate it quickly, so I can keep it in a box. Okay, so here for every day, as soon as the session gets over, I'll be also providing you the interview questions. So I'll just try to write down the interview questions for yesterday. Okay, definitely one of the very important question is what is vulnerability, threat, and risk. So you know what it is, and each of these are correlated. Because of vulnerabilities, threat exists. Because of threat, risk exists. Right. So now, what can we control? What organizations can control is the vulnerabilities. If they could identify and fix it, all that obviously decreases the security threat and security risk. So now, so what is VMDR? Why is it being used? Why is it used? Right? So now they might also ask you, what are the vulnerability assessment solutions that you have worked on? So you can, after this course, you can absolutely say that you have hands-on experience with Qualys, because we are going to see all the practical roles and responsibilities that anyone, whoever is working with this specific tool, so what they must be doing on their job on different level of experience. So definitely you can always say Qualys. And if you wanted to include this on your resume as you're trying the jobs, I know you can perfectly able to align your Qualys on your resume too. So what else do we have? They might also ask you, what is CVE? What is CVE? And what is CVSS score? So now what are the categories of CVSS score version 3? So what else we have? So explain the life cycle of EMDR. Explain the life cycle of Qualys VMDR. So asset management, vulnerability identification, and then comes prioritization, and then remediation. So I might have showed you three of. So what else do we have? That's all. That's all. So that is what it does. Okay. Now, yes. What are SLAs? What are SLA, service level agreements, and vulnerability management or vulnerability assessment? Now, So SLAs to fix based on priority. To fix based on priority. Okay, now you have the answers here. So for critical, for no, for I think yes, for critical high, so medium and for low. So critical high, medium and low. So these are. So the SLAs to fix it. Right, you have the answer here. So these are some of the interview questions in case if they wanted to test you the very basics in order to understand if you have really worked on any VMDR platform or vulnerability assessment platform or not. So these questions, the answers that the way that you answer these questions will let them understand whether you have genuine experience or not. So I know. So if you can answer these questions based on the way that I've explained here, so definitely, so you are a part of Qualys already. So today, which is 9th May, we'll talk about the architecture of Qualys VMDR. Okay, this is a very simple architecture, guys. It doesn't have any segregation of components. It doesn't have a lot of things to remember. It is a very simple architecture, but it's a very powerful model to identify the existing malwares. Okay, so now, okay, you think of this Qualys VMDR as a centralized brain in the cloud. So now it is a brain that is feeding all of it happening across your infrastructure. So now this centralized brain uses some sort of sensors. So for an example, like we have nerves, so connecting multiple parts of the body and feeding it to the brain. So think about this Qualys VMDR as a brain, and the nerves that it uses to communicate to the different parts, you can call them as sensors. So just like nerves, they have sensors. Just like our brain, they have Qualys VMDR. So Qualys VMDR is the centralized brain that uses sensors. And why these sensors are used? So it scans, responds to any vulnerabilities, and finds any existing vulnerabilities across your environment. So let me try to define it. So Qualys VMDR so is a centralized brain. So it is a centralized brain. So that uses sensors. Sensors are nothing but the agents. Okay, that means now I have my environment. So let's say, for example, so I have a server, so which is communicating to outsiders. Okay, so let's say this is some sign. There's a lot of type of servers. So let's say this is a web server. Now that is being communicating to some outsiders. All of us can visit our web application. So now what there might be an attacker who's trying to find what are all the weaknesses that they have across that specific system, right? So he might able to do penetration testing. So that is a different module, penetration testing, or which is ethical hacking. They really wanted to hack and then try to find the vulnerabilities. Now what I would do is I will use a sensor here. What the sensor could do is, so whatever that he tries to hack into us to find the vulnerabilities, the same way the sensor will scan, because it has permissions. So it will scan the entire asset, so entire system, entire services, configurations, applications that is being used across that specific device, and finds the existing vulnerabilities. So here, and then these vulnerabilities will be fed to the centralized brain of Qualys VMDR. So this is a centralized brain that uses sensors. And why these sensors are being used? So these sensors are being used to scan. Okay, maybe I'll try to take this ink. So it is used to scan. many different things, scan a lot of things, and identify any vulnerabilities across your environment. So it may be on the cloud, it may be on prem, that means on premises, physical servers, or any physical endpoints. Now it able to identify any vulnerabilities across your VMDR, and if we can automate, so we can able to respond to fix those vulnerabilities, to fix the issues. Very simple, right? So we'll also understand the core architecture components, but before that, so it can able to have four so major capabilities. As we have seen yesterday, the first thing is asset inventory. So it identifies what are all the assets that we have to scan in order to find the vulnerabilities, and then we can do a vulnerability management or assessment, you can call it as. And you have threat detection, so it will detect as the vulnerabilities are being managed. So now we can also say threat detection as prioritization. So it would prioritize the vulnerabilities based on how much threat that is associated based on the vulnerability to the organization, and then we could able to remediation. So we could able to work on remediation as we prioritize it. So now we could also call that as response. So these are the major capabilities the Qualys can able to do by using its centralized brain that uses sensors. It is nothing but an agent, just a simple application, a very so just like you have your UPI application, a lightweight application. So now that uses that lightweight application to see, identify any existing vulnerabilities across the environment, and we get able to respond to these issues to fix it. So and these are the major capabilities that it could able to do. Okay, now let's talk about the core architecture components. So now Qualys is a cloud native platform. So all of these Qualys is being hosted on their cloud. So it's on their cloud. So they give us access and they manage everything of our infrastructure, that whatever that is being done. So Qualys has to give us everything, right? So that means they are providing services to us. So they offer us the services to identify the vulnerabilities so that we could able to fix it. So now they should be creating their own console, our own console of Qualys, so that we can able to find what are all the things that is happening across the organization related to Qualys. So where do the Qualys manage, where they manage Qualys? Do we have to install anything across our environment to manage Qualys? No. So each of these sensors or the agents will be directly communicating to Qualys cloud native platform. So that means we do not have to run anything across our infrastructure to manage Qualys. So they manage it by themselves across their cloud platform. So Qualys is a cloud native platform. So it is, so very important point. So Qualys is a cloud native platform. So what do I mean? What do we mean by cloud native platform? So it doesn't have to manage physically across a network. Doesn't have to manage physically across a network. In order to use the tool, we don't have to manage it. So Qualys would manage themselves across their cloud. So this is a SaaS model. So now we have different models. So which is a SaaS model, software as a service, and that software is being managed across their cloud native platform. So now what it does, it uses sensors to identify what are all the assets, to identify the vulnerabilities on those assets, and to identify the fixes of that specific vulnerabilities that is being found. So now whatever the life cycle that we've done, whatever the major capabilities it can do, So it could able to do a lot. And across their cloud native platform, so they provide us their console with a lot of information, like they have their own dashboards that could have give us a complete visibility across what is happening around the infrastructure. They do provide reporting, so based on what type of reports that we wanted to get it, so they do provide reports. They use threat intelligence platforms to gather vulnerability details. So they work with the remediation workflows by correlating with the existing vulnerabilities and their solutions. They have their own workflows. A lot of things are being managed here. Just to write, so now, so Qualys console. So maybe I have to decrease the ink. Just a second. Let me have some water, please. Okay, thanks for that. So Qualys provides detailed information, detailed information across our network related to vulnerabilities, across our environment related to vulnerabilities. So what it could able to provide us, it provides us a simple dashboard to have the complete visibility across what is happening and what are the critical vulnerabilities, what is the impact that it has, what is the true risk score, a lot of things. And it does do a very good reporting. It does do scanning across the all assets, scanning all the assets based on the type of scans that we set. So it uses threat intelligence models, threat intelligence to identify the existing vulnerabilities. So it works on remediation. There's a lot of remediation and automated workflows can be managed here. So there's a lot more small things, but these are the major things that we can able to do within our Qualys console. Now, okay, so now think about you as a company. Okay, now you have your own company. So now let's see how we can utilize Qualys. So now I've got 100 different important assets here. Okay, so I've got 100 important assets. So that is very important to me, to my organization, to manage my business. Now, if I have to implement cybersecurity. Okay, perfect. I have implemented cybersecurity. So that means I've got security devices. I've got SOC team working to monitor what is happening on real time. So now I have different. Okay, I have SOC team and I have security devices. So now, first thing is, so we have to understand why the attackers, how the attackers can come inside. So attackers can only come inside if we have any weaknesses, right? If we have any weakness across the assets or our network, only then they can come. So what if I can able to identify and fix it first before they could come, so I could able to decrease the cybersecurity risk of my organization? So what is the first major thing that I have to work at the background is to identify the vulnerabilities and fix them. So now as a company, like ours, how can we implement find the vulnerabilities and fix it? So this is where I will introduce Qualys VMDR. So Qualys VMDR, which is operating at their cloud. So now I tell Qualys VMDR, okay, fine. So now we wanted to find our existing vulnerabilities and fix it. Okay, so Qualys VMDR comes to the picture and they say, okay, I can so do that for you. So you pay me $1 million per year. Okay, that's fine. So I'll pay you $1 million because so having a cybersecurity attack is more dangerous than paying $1 million. So according to the companies, security matters the most. Okay, so now $1 million deal is done. So what Qualys VMDR, they manage on their own cloud platform. So as in a SaaS model, software as a service model. They tell us, they ask us, okay, how many assets that you have that you wanted to find the vulnerabilities. So they would have price based on how many sensors we use. So now we know how many sensors you use. Sensors are the agents that is deployed across. Each asset should have in each sensor. Okay, now we've got 100, so we are paying based on the 100 sensors. Okay, now each sensors will be pushed to these devices. Now we can push through different ways, as we can push through sccm. So we can do the manual installation, we can do a cloud installation, we can do ansible, a lot of ways to push these sensors across the assets. What these sensors does, so these sensors, what it does, you already know it. So this could able to do all of this, and this starts working. And now as this starts working, it starts finding vulnerabilities. So it provides us the Qualys information, and Qualys will provide us the information across our console. So this is our Qualys console. They provide us the information here so that we could able to do implement this. Very simple to understand. So now, this Qualys is the cloud native platform, and that, so within their platform, so they give us a complete visibility across this. Okay, the most important thing that we have to talk is the sensors. So the second thing is the sensors. Very important. So this you can think as eyes and ears of Qualys. So this is the one. It is the one that collects data across the infrastructure, across the asset, and based on the information that it collects, it scans each of that specific applications or services configurations to find any existing vulnerabilities. So what are there are different types of sensors too. So let's talk about the three main sensor types that we've got. So the first main sensor type, so you can see this as eyes and ears of Qualys. So without sensors, there is no Qualys, guys. So there's three different types of sensors, three major types, three important type of sensors. Okay, I can just, instead of writing this, so I can just say what are the types of sensors. So the first one is the Qualys Cloud Agent, the Cloud Agent. So which is basically the most used. I can say the most used. Okay. So now this is a very lightweight agent. That means it is a very small file. So that is installed across all the assets. Now wherever I wanted to deploy, so find vulnerabilities, I can able to deploy this cloud agent, which is a very small applications across all the endpoints. And now this sensor, so this agent works 24 by 7. So collecting the data like what are the softwares that is installed. So now it will identify the software versions, and identify the vulnerabilities across that specific version, and it also identifies any misconfigurations that is there. And then what it does, as the sensor is being collected, so this sensor will collect this data and encrypt the data so that the communication can secure. So it collects the data and sends the data to Qualys cloud. So now this cloud, for every 4 hours, or as you configure, it's up to you, for every 1 hour, for every 30 minutes. So it can be for every 10 minutes, for every 10 minutes there'll be a lot of load. So for every 4 hours, 8 hours, based on how you configure it. So normally the organization configure it, send the data for every 1 hour, or maybe for every 2 hours, so that this will send out the real time updates. So you don't have to run any scans. So if a sensor is being installed, it automatically collects that specific data and send it to the cloud. And so now you can deploy this lightweight agents across multiple endpoints. This is the most used. So what it does, it is a very lightweight agent, lightweight agent installed on multiple assets. Now, so it works every time. So, and what it does, it collects the data of services, configurations, applications, softwares. It collects all the data related to what Qualys can do to find the vulnerabilities. It can relate it to operating system, a lot many things I can just say, etc. Okay. So now it collects all of that specific data. And now all of these data, in order to find the vulnerabilities, it also identify vulnerabilities and sends the data collected, sends the encrypted data. So now it sends the encrypted data of all of this that is collected to Qualys Cloud. So based on how you configure it, so for every 2 to 4 hours, based on your configuration. And then so this what as it sends the quality as it sends over to the Qualys Cloud. So Qualys Cloud will provide us, based on the data that it sends, so it will provide us so the real time updates. So it provides us the real time updates on our console. So once we guys get enrolled, so now I can show all of this across our Qualys platform. This is Qualys Cloud Agent, very widely used. And now there's also another type which is not so much used comparatively with Cloud Agent. So this is a Qualys Scanner appliance. Okay. So this can be a virtual or physical appliance. So that means it can be deployed as a software or it can be deployed as a device too. So it can, if it is on prem, if it is for the physical devices, so we use a physical appliance. So if it is deployed across the cloud, so we use a virtual appliance. So here what it does is it does active network scanning. So now it is good for unmanaged devices. Okay, like we might have connected printers so to a network. The printer can also have vulnerability. So we might have switches to form a network to communicate. So now the switches may also have vulnerabilities. Everything can have weaknesses. So now we have firewalls, we have IPS IDS devices, antiviruses. So now we don't manage these devices a lot. So we just only configure them and it will be working as usually. We only manage them very less. So these specific scanners are being deployed are good for unmanaged devices. So it can also be used as a demilitarized zone, we call it as DMG, or it can be used for honeypots, it can be used for internal networks. So now this scanner appliance, which is only used for specific assets, so it can either be virtual or physical. So if it is physical, it is for on-prem machines that are physically hosted. So if it is virtual, it will be for cloud deployed assets, right? So what it does, so it does active scanning. It does active scanning. So now it keeps on scanning to find any vulnerabilities. Okay, so now it is good for so unmanaged devices. Is good for unmanaged devices. like maybe as I said, firewalls, even networking devices like switches. It can also be good like for NetBIOS basic input output services like printers, for etc. And it can also be used for internal networks and demilitarized zone, DMG we call it. So what is DMG? So now okay, so what we would do is, so if any communication that is happening, I will not deploy my real servers so to the direct communication to an outsider. So I'll keep a DMZ here. So this is demilitarized zone. This is just like a defense. So now on my basic base, my real servers are behind the DMZ. But I also have a server here. So now this server, okay, if they hack into this, it is not actually in production. The actual thing that is production in across my environment is this, and it is connected to this. So now demilitarized zone is a zone where we configure so any services that are not properly in deployed across the production that is being deployed across the background. So let's ask Google what is DMG so that we can find it easily. So what is demilitarized zone? I can just say DMZ and cybersecurity. So you see, demilitarized zone is a network segment that acts as a buffer zone. That is a different network that is not actually in production, but that is just a buffer zone. So an organization's internal protected network, and it can also be an untrusted external network, because I cannot trust in any traffic that is coming from externally, right? So in order to protect my network, I'll create a dummy network by segmenting it, and that dummy network is so the demilitarized zone. The primary goal is to allow external users to access services, so while isolating, that means while containing the organizational sensitive internal networks to the other side, so by having a buffer zone. What are its functions? It can be typically implemented using firewalls. We can on that specific DMG we can implement network security devices too. So you know what is DMG. Just like that, we do also have honeypots. So now this Qualys sensors can be deployed across, bestly used for internal networks. So specifically like DMG or even honeypots. So sorry, I just have to. I said internal works, but it is internal networks. Okay, so this is Qualys appliance, and the last one that we have is Mage, which is one of the very widely used, but not comparatively the from the other top two. So we have Qualys passive scanners. So, so this works as a network tap or a span port. So it sniffs the traffic, so discovers any devices entering the network. So it is great for detecting any rogue or unmanaged assets, and it complements active scanning, and it is an agent based detection. So now just to understand this easily, it passively acts as a scanner so that it can able to listen to the traffic. So that means it can able to sniff the traffic and discovers any communication that is happening across the network, any communication entering to the network. Okay, so it basically acts as a network tap or a span port. Okay, so now just remember network tap and span port. So instead of me letting you know, let's ask what is span port. You see, it is a switched port analyzer. So a port analyzer, what it does, it listens to the traffic. right? So it is a feature of network switches that allows you to copy any network traffic that is communicating to one or more source ports so that it can able to define where it has to communicate. So just like that, you would also have network tab. So any way that you are using this, you can able to use a Qualys passive scanner. Right. So these are the different types of scanners we've got. So very simple architecture. We've got Qualys Cloud, which is communicating to our Qualys console. This is us, right behind. So we have deployed Qualys sensors to our assets. So this sense collects the data to the Qualys Cloud, and then so it gives us the detailed information on what is happening from the Qualys Cloud to the Qualys sensor, right? So now, as I told you, these are the different capabilities that it can perform. So tomorrow once we meet, so we could so if I could write a very normal, so brief diagram for this architecture. So we have Qualys Cloud, so very simple to understand. So a very summary diagram, let's call this as a summary diagram. Okay, so we have Qualys Cloud Platform. Okay, so Qualys Cloud Platform is integrated to our infrastructure. So based on different sensors, right? Based on different sensors, we can also call them as agent. So you have cloud agent, you have scanner, appliance, appliance scanner, or we also have passive scanner. We can call this as a passive sensor. So now it does an active scan. So cloud agent can be a real-time scan. So here this is being used most at endpoints. This is being most used across the networks. So this is mostly used across the Snap, as I told you, Snap network or traffic tap, or it's not span port, right? So it used mostly across this. So and it is being used to sniff and detect any anomalous traffic. So now all of this will be collected by your Qualys Cloud Platform, and it is being sent over to our console of the customer. So here it is being deployed, gets that here, and then it sends over it to here so that we can have a complete details on what it can able to do. Right. Okay, then. So, just in use case, imagine a company has around 100 different machines. So now it has different servers in it across their data center. They have different other devices connecting through a virtual LAN. So now, so what we have to do to find the vulnerability? So what devices that they have, they know it. So what vulnerabilities exist, they don't know it. That's why they use Qualys Cloud Platform. So it will also tell us what is high risk, what is critical risk based on the threats, and it will also give us the solution to fix that vulnerability. And whatever the vulnerabilities that is the fix, so we can able to automate that specific process of fixing the vulnerability by patching. So now when I have a vulnerability, for example, so I'll tell you a very basic example, guys, to understand this. Okay, now you have your phone. Okay, let's say this is your phone. I'll try to write it down here. Okay, have your phone and you use a lot of applications on your phone, right? Obviously. So for different things, let's say have more than 50 plus applications. So in that 50 plus applications, you do also have WhatsApp. Now you're using the version 1.1 of WhatsApp, for example. So now what WhatsApp have done, so there are some bugs, security bugs across this platform, and what they have done, so they have updated their application by fixing the bugs. Now they ask everyone to update the version 1.2 of WhatsApp in order to ensure that they do not have vulnerabilities. Now, so if I scan or if I use Qualys across your platform, and now if I say Qualys says okay, So now there is a vulnerability on your WhatsApp version 1.1 because there are separate bugs, and the fix for this is to fix for this vulnerability you have to update it. So Qualys will tell it to us. Now you're still using version 1.1 and you have a vulnerability attacker may have to compromise and is seeing all of your texts. So now why he's seeing all of your text? Because you did not fix it. So the very easy way to fix most of these vulnerabilities is by updating them. And this is called as patching. This is called as patching. So now, so 70% of, because most of them are, we are using it any open sources, or we may be using it any third party sources from different companies. So the very easy way of fixing most of the vulnerabilities can be fixed. So by updating or patching that specific vulnerabilities. So when we talk about the remediation, most of the remediations goes for patching. There'll be a separate patch management team to fix the vulnerabilities. So do not worry, this is Qualys Cloud simple architecture and but a very powerful method it does. So once we are back for the next session, so hope so you probably might have enrolled until then. So as it is just a 15-day course, so we are going to cover a lot of different aspects, 15 to 18 hours. So ensure that you enroll for it, and from the next session, so we'll talk about what are all the sensors, how do you deploy these sensors across the platform, what the sensors can able to do, and where where it is sending the data, and how are we getting it. So we try to understand this in a very practical theoretical way. There we'll try to understand in a real time way for the next session. So later on there's a different types of scans, option profiles, different configurations. Now how do we automate the prioritization of vulnerabilities and fixing it? There's a lot of things to talk about. We'll also try to cover that from the next week. So that is all I have for today. If you guys have any questions, let me know.
Hi Manoj, I have a question.
Yes.
So apart from patching the vulnerability, is there any other fix that is done on
Yes,
the live?
if there's any configurations, we do have to make the changes in the configuration. So if it is from the ACL rules across the network security devices, we have to fix those ACL. If it is coming from some scripts, so we have to fix it. There's a lot of other ways of fixing it, but one of the most common fix is updating. So now once we see the vulnerabilities, we'll see the other probable solutions to fix the vulnerabilities as well.
Okay, and the fix, how do we, who decides this? Does it have to be an upgrade or changing the configuration? Is it the security team or
So,
somebody?
so security teams is responsible for letting them know whoever the owner is of that asset. So letting them know that okay, there is a vulnerability, and they are the ones to fix it. We are not the ones to fix it. So our job is to ensure we give them enough details on letting them know how to fix it and monitoring the fix. Based on SLAs. So we just have to notify them and work with them to make sure that they fix the vulnerability. We are the ones responsible to notify them, and they are responsible for fixing it based on the service level agreements.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. Okay, then. So, any more questions?
Yeah, on from my side on. See, in 100 laptops, like in our organization, which is using, in every laptop, we have to set up a scanner, sorry, sensor for
See,
quality scanning.
typically, Qualys scanners can be used on endpoints as well, but it completely depends on the organizations. If they have a lot of budget, so they could also use
Okay.
Qualys agent on endpoints. So this is not a preferred method, but Qualys sensors. So because I have an endpoint, so I'm not running anything across my endpoint that is related to my organization, right? So I'm not running
Yes.
anything protection. So now, so maybe this might not give me a lot of risk. But if you think about the servers that is in production, so if I don't find the vulnerabilities and fix it, that would definitely have a very big impact on my security risk. So I choose endpoints or servers, I choose that. If I have more budget, I would also choose endpoints. So it completely
Mm-hmm.
depends on the organization. So but as I see in my experience, so these Qualys sensors or these agents will mostly be used across the critical systems that are in production,
Okay,
not for endpoints.
got it.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah,
any
and
more?
so we can use this a different way. Then endpoint is one tool we can use, and Qualys scan
Qualys,
also
yes.
different we can use.
So that's why organizations also, yes, you got the point right. So you're very catchy, Venu. Thanks for that. So that's why
Okay, thank
you have EDR devices separately. You do also have Qualys separate.
thank you, Manoj. Bye.
Yes.
No, no. A question is like so who decides the severity level of the vulnerability? Is it
The Qualys
done
itself.
with Qualys?
The Qualys itself, it identifies
Or
there's a CVE ID, and every CVE ID has a CVSS score. And Qualys also has a separate way to prioritize it. So based on considering many factors of a vulnerability, so based on whether it is exploitable, based on what impact it has, based on what changes that an attacker can do, so with that specific vulnerability being infected, there's a lot of many other considerations that Qualys will do and prioritize it. But if we want to simply prioritize that, so if we can also do it, so we find the vulnerability CVE number and get the CVSS score, and also we can give a severity. But to ensure we have a little more advanced way of prioritization, so Qualys has its own characteristics to define the priority that we'll see when we start the tool.
okay, thanks.
Sure. Okay, then. So have right time to wrap it up. Have a good rest of your day and have a great weekend, guys. So as I said, mentioned across the group, we will not be having any sessions on the weekends because it's the free time for us. Let's have some fun. So have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll see you guys on Monday. Thank you.
The recorded video sent, Manoj?
Sorry.
The recorded video has sent?
I think it will be managed by Lokesh. You just get in
Okay,
touch with Lokesh for the recordings.
thank you.
Sure. Okay then. Bye bye.